Hello, everybody. Today we are going to be talking about model training. We have our expert, Robin, who you all know as one of the moderators here on Discord. And I'm up here because I have no idea how to train a model at all. I tried it once and I created monsters, and it was terrifying. So, Robin is going to show me how to do it. So, yes, Robin.
Yes, ma'am. I am going to show everybody how to do this. I'm going to move to the home page because this is where you're going to start. Training a model is a feature that Leonardo gives us. The way you start from is the home page. What training a model is creating a data set. When you go into training in data sets, yours will most likely not look like this. I've been training models for a while and basically going over and doing them different types and different variations. This is the one that I'm going to be doing with us today. And from here, I'm going to let Sagan ask questions and we'll get into training models.
And just in case you've never trained a model before, I posted a picture on what it kind of looks like starting a model. So I'm going to assume starting the whole process, we're going to start with new data set at the top, right?
Right, unless you've never trained one. If you've never trained one, it's like the image Sagan dropped into the chat. It's going to be down in this area. It'll say create new data set. Okay, so if you've never trained one before, that's where you'll go. If you're going to do a new data set, you would click on this button up here, new data set, which is what I did to start the data set we're going to work with today. So you would go to new data set and you would name it, whatever you want to name it here. Make sure that it is something that you're going to recognize, and the description would go here. And this is to let you know what this data set is. This has absolutely no bearing on the training of the model at all. It's for organizational purposes for you.
So it doesn't matter what we put there as long as it's something that we'll remember.
Right. You can put which model it is that you're training because we will be going over the two Stable Diffusion versions that we can train. You might want to put that in there so you'll know. But when we get to actual training section of it, we'll be able to actually put that in there as well. So this is basically for your information and will not affect the training of the model at all. So that's where you'll start. I'm going to go ahead and X out of this because I already chose some images and I'll show you where I chose them from. This is where I'm starting with with what we're going to do today. Okay, so we're going to open this up and the data character name is going to be Cute Puppies.
Because obviously there's some cute puppies in those pictures.
Yes. And the data set description is just very brief. Cute puppies, Christmas scenes, and background variations. When you curate your images for your model, you have to really think about what do you want your model to do? How do you want it to function? And from that is when you start choosing your images. And they have to be a certain size. They can either be 512 by 512 or 768 by 768. If you go with 512 by 512, you're going to have a Stable Diffusion 1.5 model. If you go with the 768 by 768, you will have the Stable Diffusion 2.1 model. Both of them are very good models. Both of them have, their own attributes.
Which one are we going to be doing today?
From the data set that we chose, that I chose, it looks like we're going to be doing 512 by 512, but we have some that are just a little out right here. So we'll go into that. And just when we get ready to train, we'll try to decide if we're going to leave those. I don't think it's going to bother anything really, but it looks like we have 512 by 512s.
How important is it for the images to be roughly the same size?
It's very important for the training. That way you don't experience any type of abnormalities, which may show up in your generations. If you're doing all 768 by 768s and you've got a 512 in there or a few 512s in there, what you may end up running into is having an image that's distorted. It may have part of the puppy and then nothing.
Like chopped off heads or no tails.
Right.
Okay.
So for this data set, we've got 21 images out of 40 because you can do up to 40 images. Leonardo recommends for characters to do between 8 and 15. I've found that if you do between 8 and 15, That's mainly if you want to do a character based off of yourself. And you really don't need 15 to do that. You need about 10 at most. You do need variation in the poses, facial expressions, based on yourself. Then you're going to put yourself in different scenes. So all of that matters, the background scenes, the poses, the expressions. They need to be consistent, but they also need to have different variations to them.
So
That
somewhat similar, but having different options here and there.
Right. The consistency must be okay. If you're doing puppies, you need puppies. The variations come in with the posing. Like this puppy is to the side, these puppies are looking straight. Their facial expressions, even puppies have facial expressions. You need to show different emotions because you don't want to have a happy puppy well, you might want to have a happy puppy all the time, but some people want sleepy puppies that just have begging blue eyes, like they want their treat. Cute little puppies, just posed puppies with hoodies. Those are the variations, the backgrounds, their pose, the look on their face. The consistency comes in with the actual animal itself.
Okay, understood.
On puppies.
So how do we gather all of these pictures?
If you're an artist, you can draw your own and scan it in, then resize it to whichever size you want to go with, and then you can add that to your data set. You can upload it. The downside of having this ready is you didn't get to see where it says upload. You can upload from your gallery, or you can go to your personal feed, which mine does not show puppies, or you can go to the community feed because we went with puppies. You can type in puppies and go to new and search. And this is where we got our puppies. So we have 21 right now. We can add this puppy and we can find, see, this puppy is in a different pose. So we can add these puppies because they're different poses. They're different backgrounds. They're a different breed. That's fine. We can add this one. He's pretty cute. And I would probably add this one.
French Bull Terriers.
Yes. And he's looking straight. And he's cute. And he's cute.
I think those are beagles.
Yes. If we see any more that we think might be cute, he might be the same. Let's grab him. And then we'll go up here back to our data set. And they should all be in here. So when you're in here, what you can do is you can say, okay, what do I have? Because I have different dogs. Do I have only one dog that might be a one-off, something that's completely opposite of what everything else is in here? And we do right here. And we do have these two right here. The rest of them are pretty much Christmas theme. So we can either leave these in or take them out. I'm going to leave them in. We can also tell that these are different sizes. They're a different aspect ratio. These are more landscape, so they're not going to be a one-to-one. What you would need to decide is, do you want to leave it like that because they're cute, or do you want to take them out? That's the question I have. They should be the same aspect ratio, 1-to-1, consistent with variations in their poses and their facial expressions and the backgrounds. But the most important thing is the quality of the image. As you watch me do this, what do you think? Do you think I should leave in the ones that are not 1-to-1? We should go back and find more. We have about 7 or 8 that are not 1-to-1, but we do have Christmas backgrounds here and here. And I think each puppy is pretty representative. We've got some beagles, we've got some Rottweilers, we've got these little pit bulls, we've got these little Chalcan dogs. I think we've got a pretty equal representation of each puppy. So with the information that I've given you, have I given you enough to make a decision on whether we need to train this model?
Our Tellian says the ones that aren't 1-to-1 should be taken out. Yeah, the ones that aren't 1-to-1 need to be taken out, definitely. Have enough Christmas backgrounds, so we probably wouldn't need them anyway.
No, we don't. So we're going to go ahead and take out these.
Could we put them in and then take them out later?
Yes, you can retrain.
Retraining is a thing. We'll get into retraining in a bit.
Do you want to leave some in to see what happens, or do you want to take them out completely? Right now we're at 32 images. We're going to be taking out about 12.
Yeah, let's leave in some of them just so we can take them out later and show people.
We're going to leave in the little dachshund here because we do have 1 up there and 2, so that gives us 4. This cute little guy right here. To remove them, you just select and hit remove images. and it takes those out.
That is super easy.
Very easy. 25 images is a good set. You can go all the way up to 40. You run the risk of having to retrain to remove some of them because the resolution might just be too dense. That's just something that is trial and error. Now that we look at these, they're not one-to-one either. There's only 2 of these. In my opinion, these should come out. They're not adding anything to it. There's 2 of these little dogs. There's nothing here where they match.
Agreed. We can take them
Okay.
out.
So we'll remove those.
Bye-bye, fluffy dogs.
So now we're down to 23. 23 is still a good set, but if you would like, we can go back down to the community feed and we can see if we can find more puppies. Like these seem to be the same ratio, and we can replace 3 that we took out.
Yeah, let's get the Labradoodles. I think that's what those are.
I think they are. We have one too, so we need to add to them. They are facing the same direction. They're in the same pose, but they do have different backgrounds, and we'll see that in just a second.
Well, a Labradoodle is kind of like a retriever, Si.
Yeah, it's kind of like a retriever. All right, so now we are back to 26. We have 3 little Labradoodles. Well, we've got 5 little Dachshunds. 3 little Rottweilers. The pugs. There's 3 of those. So we seem to have about, a good mix of puppies. And they have various different backgrounds. These are kind of similar, but it's still different. It's a Christmas puppy. We have a good color palette going on. That is the other thing that's important. All of these are complementary colors, pretty much. These are a little off, but they will still go in with these. They're pretty complementary to the blues and the greens and the Christmas pictures. I would say this is a good data set. We do have these down here that are a little bit off, but everything else looks to be pretty much, if this is how you're going to do it, the same size.
So we have 26 images now, and that's pretty good. What's the lowest amount that you would recommend for a general data set?
That depends on what the data set, what the model is going to be used for. If you're going to do game pieces, I would say between 8 and 10, because those are very similar in size, similar pieces. There's only so many different positions that you can do with a game piece, and there's really only so many backgrounds. So you don't need as many for that. If you're going to do a character of yourself, I would say between 10 and 12, and I think that's even on the high side. You only need a variation of a few poses, emotions on your face, maybe different backgrounds, maybe even just a blank background, not white, because that's kind of hard to overcome, but 10 to 12 for like a model of yourself. For this type of thing, you can go all the way up to 40. It just depends on if you want to do multiple styles. Say we have puppies. All these puppies are pretty much the same consistency. They're all Christmas themed. They're all small. We have a good selection, and they're all pretty much, the same color scheme. So if you wanted to actually have a different color scheme and you wanted it in this data set, keep in mind that you need to have more, and there needs to be a certain ratio of each different color scheme.
So if I wanted to have more of the blue and white down at the bottom, I would have to add more blue and white puppies to make it even. Okay.
Yes. I don't think these are going to come through very good. These are in here just to see what will happen. That's why these are in here. This is to see what happens. They are Christmas themed, small dogs. They're not one-to-one, but this is a see what happens type of thing with these. But yes, if you wanted more of the blue and white, we would need to add more images and get closer probably to between 32 and 35 images. And it would have to be not just this little doggy. It would need to be different dogs with different backgrounds with complementary colors to this, or in this color palette.
Makes sense to me.
Should we add more? Should we go ahead and train?
Let's give chat a second to see if they want to add anything to our cute puppy pile. Dee, you better be happy that we're doing puppies instead of cats, because I opted for cats.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and train. All you have to do to train the model is just a few more steps. You click on Train Model. Now this is where you fill in information. This text has no bearing on the training of the model. What the model is trained on, and the reason the images are so important in quality and clarity, is because the AI is reading the images because there's no text input. You can't label them. I mean, you could, but it wouldn't do any good. So you cannot label them or anything. It's reading the images themselves. That's why it's so important that when you create a data set, you do so with exactly what you want in mind, and you come to it with images that are high quality. Quality over quantity is going to win every single time. With that being said, we're going to do cute puppies as the model name. The description is going to be pretty much the same as the data set description at Christmas. For mine, typically what I will do is I will actually list out each puppy for my purposes, but I'm just going to leave it here for now. We're going to leave the training resolution at 512 by 512 because most of them are. It's going to give us a Stable Diffusion 1.5. Stable Diffusion 1.5 has the benefit of being able to use more elements, so think gingerbread for Christmas, whereas Stable Diffusion 2.1 actually gives you more detail. They're both very good. From category, we're going to choose our category, which is going to be characters. Now you could do general if it was multi-purpose, buildings if it's architecture, so illustrations if you're doing children's books, game items, graphical elements, photography. There's a lot of different things to choose, but we're going to choose characters. And that is important. It's important that you get the right category. And then your instance prompt. I typically do a space. I'm going to go with a puppy. This is going to be something that you type in every time you generate with this model. This model is NSFW. No, it's not. So we're not going to check that. Okay, so if you have any questions, you hover over the question mark and it'll tell you the category determines how the model will be trained. So if you were to click general, but you have cute puppies, you might get landscapes with puppies. So we want characters. We just checked over to make sure everything is right. Okay, so SD 1.5 performs well in general. SD2 better with realistic. So there's a lot more to it than that. We'll go into that with the second part of the series.
Half and Half says, so I have 40 images in a character model I am planning to train. Should I roll with it and see what retains if needed? Sure.
Yeah, you can do that. You can roll with it and see what you need to do, or you can retrain if it doesn't work out. The thing to remember is, I'm going to start training this, is unless you're that 1 in a million, there will not be an image from the model that you train, the first image that you generate, is going to be perfect. Models get better the more you use them. This is the same. When we start generating images from this model, the first few images are not going to be the best in the world. We'll generate a few images and then, we'll just generate a few more and see how it progresses. So don't give up after the first roll. If you go to retrain after the first roll, you haven't really given the model a chance to settle down, to gel is what I call it. It hasn't gelled well yet. So you just need to just keep working with it, because the more you work with it, the better it gets. If it does not get better, if it doesn't produce what you want it to produce, that's when you start thinking about, okay, why? With this one, it may very well be because we have some that are out of the 1-to-1 aspect ratio. It might be we have some that are not of the same color palette or complementary to the color palette. Those are things that you would look at. That's why the description for the data set is pretty much filled out really well with mine. That way I know what I'm going to go in and look at and I'm going to remove.
So Sai has a question. It says, the model only works properly if the instant prompt is used?
Yes. It will work without the instance prompt. You may not get the results that you want. The best way to learn that is to try it without the instance prompt. See what happens, and then try it with the instance prompt and see what the difference is.
Does it matter what that instant prompt is? Because Wonderluck is asking if we should have put Christmas in there.
No, it doesn't. The instance prompt is just to trigger the model. So, and the recommended from Leonardo is 1 to 3 words, and it does state if you get stuck, just put a and then a noun after it. My typical instance prompt is a space, and on some of the ones that I'm working on currently, it is actually just my name.
So your instant prompt is literally, you put in Robin, and it just pops up your while using your trained model. It'll do it.
Well, no, you have to put that in. You have to type
Okay.
it into the prompt. But I typically use a space. The official mods, like models, no, they don't have an instance prompt, but they're trained very differently. So what we're doing basically is going to be in the next stream where I'm going to go into more detail on the base model. We are creating or fine tuning a model on top of we have a base model. It's not like, you know, the ones that are trained that we typically use, like the Excel models, SDXL, Absolute Reality 1.5, the pipelines that we typically use. These are just a little bit different.
Random has a question. Say, okay, my question for you is how long of a description in the prompt is needed? Example, a space puppy. Will it take just that or more?
For the instance prompt?
I think for the description itself, I think you said can be anything. It's just for your knowledge, right?
Yeah, the description is just for your knowledge. It's just to let you know what's in there. I put in Christmas puppies. If you put too much in the instance prompt, it's going to cause a problem. I have not ever actually done that, so I don't know exactly how much problems. That's something that I'm going to do for the next stream so that I can explain that better. I've done a lot of research and a lot of reading on it, and Dee has put in a good example of how he uses his instance prompt. And I will do an example of how I use mine. Let's go back and check while that's going on. It's done.
Done. It's done.
If you have 40 images in there, sometimes it might take 5. Sometimes it takes 10. It just depends. It doesn't take long. We're going to go out to your data sets. Okay, now this is where our data sets are. You cannot choose your model from here because you're either going to end up training it or editing it. So we have to go back out to the generation page. And we're not going to use, we're going to select another model. You're going to go to your models. This does not have an image on it because we haven't selected one yet. So you hit view, pretty much like the other ones. You see the information. Your instance prop is a puppy, and the description is cute puppies at Christmas. It is a stable diffusion 1.5, the training resolution, the category, and the strength, medium. Okay, and then we're going to generate with this model. So we're going to put a puppy somewhere in here, and we're going to see what happens, because this is what, so I'm going to put it at the end. We're just going to generate 3 pictures.
Here's a question from Artelian. He says, is the instant prompt case sensitive? So do you have to, if you write it as uppercase, does it have to be uppercase when you put it in the prompt?
No, it doesn't have to be. We can see if there's a difference, but in this particular instance, I don't believe that it's going to make a difference, but we will do it when we actually do a real prompt for this. All right, so what it did was it took the prompt that is actually a female warrior, okay? It made a puppy warrior.
Those are actually really good.
They are.
It's good. I mean, it's weird, but it's good.
Yes, it is. It is very good. It's very weird. It's interesting to see what happens when you try to use a different, without puppies, where your prompt is mainly about something completely different. So when I am practicing or training or just doing research, I will pretty much take anybody's that I can get because it's different from my style, and I will use it with one of my models just to see how it runs. That's testing. We're going to see what we can do, how we can do it, and what works and what doesn't. And that is how you learn. We're going to do a cute image. This is why I like a space as an instance prompt better, because I don't have to work around words. So we're going to do a cute image of a puppy and a Christmas scene.
Should we change the aspect ratio?
You can. If we had alchemy off, I would say yes. Let's put it on 512 by 512. I don't stick to this, but for the purposes of training, because I'm always pushing the limits of everything, we'll put that on. We're going to run a set with no prompt magic at all and a set with prompt magic. I usually don't use a preset, but we might do both as well. So we're going to do 512 by 512 because we have alchemy off. With alchemy on, it's like any other model. It doesn't matter. You don't have to stick to the ratio that you trained it at.
Excellent.
Okay, so this is none. This is just a cute image of a puppy in a Christmas scene.
Yeah, I noticed the ones that we generated before, if you scroll down, does it not look like it took the color scheme of the larger picture?
It does. It looks like it took the color scheme of um, the landscape, the three little blue puppies in the bottom, and
Yep.
the stars. But in the prompt, it says blue armor with a glowing blue sword and shield. So I think that is what's pulling this out, the blues and the stars. This is basically what we have in there. We didn't give it any definition, any style, anything different other than what I saw.
Cute
Just a cute
puppy.
image of a puppy in a Christmas scene. To get something to where it doesn't look bad, look identical, we've got two Rottweilers and a boxer. Or is that a bulldog? I think it's bulldog.
Oh, I can't even tell. Maybe. It's
Yeah,
in puppy form. They're all cute.
they're all puppies. We're going to build on this. We have a cute image of a puppy. We're going to say the puppy is happily frolicking in the snow. And what else is he doing? He's happy, so we have an expression. He's frolicking in the snow in front of
Christmas tree.
a large town Christmas tree.
As we hear jingle bells in the background.
That's right. We're going to be singing Christmas carols. All right, so we've got a cute image of a puppy happily frolicking in the snow in front of a large Christmas tree in a town square. Still at 512 by 512, still with no prompt magic, no preset. The next one we'll add the preset, see what it does, and then we'll turn on some prompt magic and go from there. And they should improve. I mean, these are pretty good. Actually, they're cute. But I can't get over this one down here. This one's just too cute.
I bet you anything if you put an alchemy refiner on the one in the middle up top,
This
that
one?
that will improve it.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cute. I'm maybe a little disturbed with the sword behind the puppy, but it's still cute and it's pretty clear. They're dogs. I mean, this one's a little bit of mutation in the face. The face has cleared up. We could have used high, and that would have probably cleared it up more. It does. It looks a lot better. She's holding the keys to the kingdom there. Okay, so what do we have now? We still have cute puppies in front of the same position. They just don't have windows. A little more consistency. Let's give them a style. And let's generate 4 more.
Make a Grinch puppy, is what he says, Rando.
Yes, we will make a Grinch puppy.
Well, that one's kind of a Grinch puppy without even prompting it when at the end. He's trying.
He's trying to have some green he heard. Look at his little eyes. They're not frolicking in the snow, though. But he's in the snow. And he is in front of a window. He has not changed yet. He kind of morphed into 2 different puppies. But that's okay. He's still cute. Okay, so we're going to do, a Grinch V. And we're going to say he is pulling a sleigh down a mountain to the Whoville town square. And then we're going to turn on prompt magic.
Oh, Johnny says we should have put antlers on him.
With antlers strapped to his head. So there's our Grinch puppy pulling a sleigh.
Didn't quite make it.
No, it didn't. But that's okay. We've got antlers strapped to his head now. We're going to turn on some prompt magic, see if that does it. We're going to turn the high contrast off. And roll another one. And then we'll go with alchemy and see if the alchemy starts giving us some outputs of what we want. Because what is happening is we did not have enough variations. We have enough consistency, but I don't think we had enough variations to where the model is going to say, okay, we want this scene. We want mountains. We want a sleigh. We want different things. And you don't have to always do that, but you do need to have, we might get a mountain because there's one showing through a window. You do need to have enough variation to be able to actually accomplish some of it. And sometimes it's just a simple matter of continuing to roll generations to get to the point of either I'm not going to get what I want, so I need to retrain. I need to look at my images. I need to look at my data set. I need to see what's not correct. What am I looking for? We're getting there, but we're not there yet. So we're going to turn on alchemy, and I'm going to go ahead and just leave it on 3.
Crank it up.
I might turn on raw. That might help. Let's see. We're going to go with creative. Hit it and see a puppy with antlers, the style of the Grinch. All right, so alchemy starts doing some things. Now we have him on the sleigh, maybe going down a mountain. I don't know what happened to him.
They're trying to be puppies.
They are trying. So you also have to take into consideration the limitations of the AI. When you're trying to create an image of Santa in the sleigh being pulled by reindeer, the classic scene, it's very hard for the AI to do that because that's not really a thing. Men and reindeer don't fly through the sky. And also it's a moving object. So it's harder for moving objects as well, in my experience. Now, there are other people who can prompt or are more able to manipulate the models that are a lot better than I can. So that might just be me, but that is something that I do constantly. I continuously have issues with. I'm going to roll this again on creative and see if we can make it, bigger, better. We're going to start adding some negative prompts in. All right, so now we have the Grinch puppy. We can refine this. That looks like little Cindy Lou who grew and just jumped on the back of the sleigh. The antlers are not on his head, but we are getting closer. This is what I mean by, don't just give up after a couple of rolls. They're not going to be perfect. The model has to have time to learn.
And also, a lot of these, yeah, they're kind of warped, but Alchemy Refiner is really good about looking at an image and somewhat correcting it. So even if it looks kind of like a monstrosity, you can turn it into a piece of art.
An Alchemy Refiner I've found works really well on community models, and it works really well on my models when I need it to. That is something that, you can definitely try, the Alchemy Refiner. It is a little costly on tokens. So if that's not something that you want to do, want to have to run into a lot, you've got to put a lot of thought in your data set. A lot of the issues that we're running into is first fine tuning. That's what we're doing by prompting for what we want, and then just keep rolling it to make sure that, the AI, the model is working and that it's doing something. And we're getting kind of closer here. He looks more like a bear there.
But that still looks really great.
Yeah, this one's cute. But he's got antlers on his head. So yeah, we're getting closer. If we had about an hour, we could probably get a Grinch puppy with antlers on his head going down a mountain. If you never get to that place, oh, he's too cute with his little cross eyes. If you never get to that place, that's when okay, I need to, look at my data set. I need to find out what's going on. I need to see, why this is not doing what I need it to do. Throughout these generations, if I was still here, I would be thinking seriously about, okay, I'm going to try a few more prompts. I'm going to do a few more tricks, with the settings. I'm going to see, maybe change the aspect ratio, maybe change the size. And then I would go back and look and take a look at the images and remove or, and add either one and then retrain. But first, I would give it enough time. It is so important on the data set. And I do have the information, on how to curate a really good data set. It's going to be in a guide. I have it already if anybody wants it now. I would suggest think about what you want first. Do I want puppies? Do I want Christmas puppies? Because this is very specific to the season. Oh, this is the refiner. It does actually make a really big difference. His little eyes are crossed. I think he's cute. As far as it didn't really uncross his eyes, but it did make a difference in the rest of it around him. I like his crossed eyes.
Do you want to demonstrate one of the other models that you've trained before, or do you want to stay on this one?
Well, just to show the difference and what you can do is we'll go here because this one looks like it's going to be a pretty messed up model. It's actually not. It's actually pretty good. The other thing to remember is if you don't use your model, say you've used your model and you're doing fine, everything's good, everything's perfect, and then you don't use it again for a while. It's going to be almost like retraining. So just keep that in mind as well. My instance prompt for this one is a space. That's why you don't see anything here. And we're going to go with creative. And we're just going to stick. This is a very hard pose to get. So I'm not expecting that to come up, but it would if it did. So you just need to know the limitations. If you want to have a pose like for a ballerina that is extremely hard for an AI to capture, you just have to understand that there are ways to do it, mainly without alchemy or prompt magic, and that there's some cleanup that will have to be done. Otherwise, they usually typically will come up with, a different the aspect ratio should be different too. Let me
Those are
switch that
still
around.
beautiful.
Thank you.
We had a question come up. What is the time frame to retrain your model? So I guess the question would be like, how long do you wait before you have to continuously use your model?
Once you've created the data set, and if you've done a few models, you typically know when, but if it's your first one, you've got the data set, you're putting in prompt after prompt after prompt, and it's not working. You still have a puppy in front of a window with a tree. Or it just moved outside, but it's still the same position. That's when you look at it. And if it hadn't started changing to where it was outside, where there were antlers on its head, because there were no antlers in the pictures, in the images that we chose, that is when I would say, okay, that's it. That's enough. We're gonna go back to the data set. We're gonna look at it and see what's going on, and then remove what we don't want and add in what we think is going to fix. What's going to fix it. It just really depends on if you feel like you have a really good data set, you just haven't given it a chance. I'd maybe do 10 generations. But I would be doing them at 4 per generation. So it just depends on you. It depends on your plan, what you want to do. If you're using if you're spending 4 tokens for 4 images, I don't think 10 would be a bad thing, just to give it a good chance. If you're spending 20 on 4 images, then I would cut it back depending on your plan and go back and look at it. And then there are times when retraining is just not going to be enough, and you may have to just remove everything and start over. I can't stress enough how important it is to make sure that you have a really good data set. And I will show you why. This is an image that I have done repeatedly with all the models, and I've done repeatedly with my models, with and without prompt magic, and sometimes they come out perfect. She apparently is not going to be doing any leaping, but it's still a very pretty picture, pretty image. This is a pretty good image. These can easily be fixed with any little, because they're minor imperfections with, the refiner if you want to. This is an example of what you don't ever want to see. And that's
Okay.
going to be...
For the weak of heart, please close your eyes.
No, it's more like, for the love of all that's... Why is that doing that? This was the first model I ever created. Okay. It is the instance prompt is an angel. This model was created for 1 image only. I did get the image I wanted. It took a long time. It is not a good image, a good model at all. And I went by the guide without really putting much thought in my data set other than I knew what I wanted in there, but I wasn't thinking about resolution. I wasn't thinking about quality. I wasn't thinking about anything other than, can I clearly see the face? And yes, I could. And so that's what I went with. And it is not a very good model. And because I said that, it will do something that's decent. But if you get something like what I'm expecting to come up, the first time you roll a generation, stop, retrain. If you get something like this and you're on alchemy, stop and retrain because there's something wrong. I've been using this model and working with this model, and nothing I do fixes this. It did give me the one image that I wanted, but other than, and well, Photoshop fixed the wings on one part of it. Other than that, I do not get anything better than this. So this is a sure sign that you don't want.
So yeah, when I did model training way back in the day, when Leonardo was still very little, I would make monsters. I would try very very hard, and I just would make creatures that you wouldn't even want to, and that discouraged me. But it seems like they've improved the process a lot since then.
The improvement is in the information. If you have the right information, you are able to get a quality model. Is it going to be the same as photoreal? No. Yeah, I have a lot of background in photography. You know, if I wanted to really try half God, half devil, who is my new Vol mod, you know, he's got an extensive background in photography. You know, we could put our heads together and we still would not come up with a model like photoreal. We would not have a pipeline like photoreal. It just wouldn't be possible. And that's not because of what you're doing. It's because what we're basically doing is we're building on top of a base model. We're not building a model from scratch. We don't have the ability to put text in there. So what we're relying on is the AI being able to read every detail in the image. And then we are constrained to 40 images. Information is very, very valuable. And the information that is the most needed for this is your data set and how to curate one to maximize the impact of your model. And then from there on, it's just fine tuning.
Understood. Okay, so let's go ahead and do a last call for any questions. I know that Wonderluck wants just a little bit more clarification on when do you need to retrain a model. His whole statement is if you like the data set, the model is good. If I understand correctly, if you don't use it often, you will have to retrain it.
No, you don't have to retrain it. It's like kind of like use it or lose it, but you don't really lose it. You just have to run a few generations and then it'll get back to where it was. I use Deliberate 1.1 a lot. Okay. If I go a month or 2 or 3 months without using it, it's like it's relearning what I want it to do in the style that I want it to do it in. It is a more fine-tuned model than the ones that we're doing. You will have to run a few generations and get it back to where it was, but not as many as like when you first trained it. So no, don't retrain the model. There's nothing wrong with the data set. There's nothing wrong with the model. It's just been put away, and it just needs to be, when you bring your sweaters out in the cold weather, you just shake it out and just, fluff it back up. That's all. And there will be a part 2 that has a lot more information, more technical, more advanced information. Models that perform very well. Our character model, we had a few hours. We could probably go in and get some different variations for it and actually get that little dog pulling a sleigh down the hill. Thank you. I'm glad that I was able to help. Sagan was a blessing to me because I was really, really freaking out. It was good this way today. And thank you, Sagan. Sagan is a lifesaver.
Doing what anybody would do.
So next time is the part 2 will be more on the data set, the curation of the images, and more on the models that I currently have that work really well that we didn't get to see today. So that'll be part 2.
Looking forward to part 2.
Well, thank y'all for coming. I appreciate you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.